It's Tuesday, August 5th, 2025. Welcome to Make It Make Sense. I'm Granthermes. Today on the show, a Texas-sized showdown over the future of free and fair elections, not just in that state, but across the country, as the state of Texas tries to redraw its election map in time for Donald Trump to keep control of the House of Representatives. I'm going to talk about exactly what's happening here because it can sound kind of confusing, why it isn't like what we've seen before, and what it could mean for you even if you don't live in Texas. But first, make sure that you're following and subscribe to Make It Make Sense on whatever podcast app you listen to this on. Like, subscribe, hit the bell for notifications on YouTube if you're a watcher. Sign up for the Make It Make Sense Substack. It's just $5 a month, and I've got brand new content going up tomorrow, so you're not going to want to miss out on that. And as always, share the show on social media. It's Mims Newspod. That's MIMS Newspod, all one word on every platform. I am at Granthermes on Twitter and Bluesky, and at Granthermes TV on everything else. All right, let's get to the show. We're heading into the final stretch of summer, and let's face it, you need some new sunglasses. Your old ones are scraped or scuffed, or maybe, like I did, you sat on them because you left them in the car, and it's time to replace them so you can finish out the summer in style. That's where Aquila comes in. Independently designed and handcrafted in LA, they offer timeless style, uncompromising quality, all without the inflated price tag. And their styles are unisex and look great. I really like their Essential line. It's a cool throwback look that really fits my day-to-day style. I can throw them on and know that they'll fit my fit. And you can feel good about wearing Aquila sunglasses too, whether it's the UV blocking sunglasses, the blue light clear lenses, or the prescription eyewear. It's all made from 50% recycled materials, including recycled lenses, eco-friendly plant-based plastics, and it's shipped to you in sustainable, plastic-free, biodegradable packaging. Plus, all Aquila frames come back with a 1-year warranty, just in case anything should happen to them. You just ship them back and they'll fix them up, or they'll get you some new ones. So right now, you can get an exclusive 10% off your next pair of Aquila glasses, their highest discount of the summer, when you use the code MIMS25 at checkout. That's MIMS25 on your entire order. Now, Make It Make Sense does get a cut of that, but, it's just another reason to go check them out. Protect your eyes, support the show. It's a win-win. So visit Aquila.la, that's AKILA, and use the promo code MIMS25 at checkout. Aquila. Unisex handmade sunglasses from LA. Independent style meets unbeatable prices. Elevate your look with modern eyewear concepts. All right, let's get on with the episode. Today's episode is brought to you by Cozy Earth. As we head into the last month of summer, the school year is on its way, and that also means more stressful schedules and a return to hectic lives. And honestly, with the news the way it's been lately, if you're like me, you've just been looking for a way to unwind a little bit. And with Cozy Earth, you can transform your space into an elevated haven where serenity and renewal intertwine effortlessly. Create a sanctuary within your own home, a refuge from the demands of the outside world. They understand the significance of finding comfort and tranquility in the midst of our hectic lives. Our 5 to 9 should consist of relaxation and rejuvenation, unwinding and embracing a sense of calm. I really like their bamboo sheet set, especially right now because it is still summer. The nights can get a little hot, but not under these sheets. They're super breathable, which means my wife and I sleep a few degrees cooler, which can make all the difference between a night of tossing and turning for me and a good night's sleep. I also really like their Luxe robe. I'm a robe guy. I know, say what you will, but I love them, and these are about as soft as it gets. I'll avoid planning things on the weekend just so I can spend a little bit more time in this robe. That is how good it is. Cozy Earth's products are a favorite among celebrities as well. Kris Jenner praises their bamboo sheets as her nightly essential, raving about how soft and cool they are for 7 consecutive years. 7. Oprah has included Cozy Earth on her favorite things list, and the brand has been featured on Good Morning America, InStyle, Better Homes and Gardens, and customers are saying things like the sheets are buttery soft, and the pajamas are the ultimate cozy treat. Plus, with free shipping on orders over $50, a 100-night sleep trial, and a 10-year warranty, Cozy Earth will bring lasting luxury and comfort into your home. Visit CozyEarth.com and use my exclusive 40% off code MIMS25, MIMS25. It's good on any purchase. It's the best deal, and you cannot find it anywhere else but right here. And if you get a post-purchase survey, make sure that you say you heard about Cozy Earth on Make It Make Sense. It makes a commission from the sale, which goes to the show, which helps keep me in my favorite robe. Again, visit CozyEarth.com and use the code MIMS25, MIMS25 for 40% off. Wrap the ones you love in luxury with Cozy Earth. All right, let's get to the episode. So for the last few weeks or so, Donald Trump has been pushing the state of Texas to redraw its district map for its elections. For the House representatives and at the state level, it is a process called gerrymandering. It's been around since about the 1800s, almost immediately after the country was founded, but it's been supercharged. And what I mean by this whole process is you live in a congressional district that's represented by a member of Congress that we vote on every 2 years. Normally, every 10 years, in just about every state, usually tied to the census, the lines for those districts get redrawn because the population changes. It's to make sure that things are fair and that people, specifically people of color, aren't drawn out of real representation, which is what was done into the mid to late 1900s and could happen later this year, but I'll have more on that later. But for decades, drawing those district maps has become a way for political parties to keep power in their states. Because, you see, if you could redraw the map to make it so one party always has the majority in the district, then you can pretty much guarantee you're going to stay in power. And at least for now, it's not illegal to discriminate against someone based on their political party, which is what Donald Trump has told Texas to do. And when he said jump, they said how high. Because in Texas, along with a majority of states in the country, the state legislature draws the new maps. Some states use a non-political commission to redistrict, meaning they're made up of non-partisan actors, and they're generally, but not always, seen as more fair. Those states are Washington, California, Arizona, Colorado, Idaho, Montana, and Michigan. New Jersey also has a commission, but it's a political one. Virginia and New York have a blended system of the legislature and certain commissions. And then 5 states, Alaska, North Dakota, South Dakota, Wyoming, and Vermont, don't redistrict because nobody lives in those states, and they don't have to redistrict because there's only one district. Now, like I said, for decades, political parties in these states have redrawn district maps to their favor, Democrats and Republicans alike, although it's important to note here that Republicans have done it far more aggressively and arguably egregiously than Democrats have, although that is not the case for every state. But what is happening in Texas right now is different from what we've seen in the past because they just redrew their districts a few years ago. So these new districts are happening potentially illegal in the middle of the 10-year election cycle to benefit Republicans right before the midterms, where we expect Trump and the Republicans to be unpopular. That's usually how midterm elections go for the sitting president and his party, meaning they're trying to rig the game now so they don't actually have to play it later. And if you're listening to this, you're not seeing the maps, and I know that, but essentially the maps that they came up with break apart the small and already very oddly shaped Democratic districts around Dallas, and then one between Austin and San Antonio to make them even smaller. It's a process known as cracking and packing, where you crack apart the opposing political party's voters to then pack them into separate, smaller districts to dilute their overall voting power. Together, in the end, this map will net Republicans 5 more guaranteed seats in the House of Representatives. And those are crucial seats because Republicans have the smallest majority in House history right now. They can only lose 2 votes from their side before they have to bargain with Democrats to pass any kind of a law. So picking up 5 more votes means that they'll have a much easier time doing what they want to do, more so than we've already seen. But beyond the nitty-gritty of how Congress works, on a fundamental fairness level, this kind of rigging the system is bad for democracy. In these new maps for Texas, for example, if they'd been in place in the 2024 election, it would have meant that 79% of the state's districts would have gone for Trump compared to the 56% of the overall population that actually voted for him, which is inherently unfair. The founders of the country wanted Congress, in President John Adams' words, to be a miniature, an exact portrait of the people at large. It should think, feel, reason, and act like them. And you just don't get that when you're picking and choosing your voters instead of voters picking and choosing their elected leaders. And on top of that, this kind of gerrymandering creates more extreme politics. We know from dozens of studies done over decades now that as more district maps have been redrawn to benefit one party or the other, polarization, meaning how far apart politically we are from one another, has gotten much worse. And the more extreme a district is, the more extreme candidates for office have to get those votes, meaning you get weirder and worse elected leaders because they have to out-crazy each other to get elected. But I'm getting a little far away from Texas here, so let's bring it back. Democrats in Texas have been fighting hard against these new maps, and over the weekend, some of them fled the state. Some to California, others to Illinois, and others to New York. By fleeing the state, they prevent the state legislature from having what's called a quorum, meaning enough people to legally pass a law. Now, that prompted both the governor of Texas, Greg Abbott, and its attorney general, Ken Paxton, to call for the arrests of those elected officials and even speculate that they could bring a case to the Texas Supreme Court to try to get them convicted of abandoning their seats. Here's what Attorney General Ken Paxton said in a release. I'm prepared to do everything in my power to hold them accountable because these liberal lawmakers are not above the law. It's imperative that they be swiftly arrested, punished, and face the full force of the law for turning their backs on the people of Texas. And to be really clear, there is nothing illegal about what these Texas Democrats are doing. But I can understand, as you hear this, some squeamishness about watching elected leaders flee to friendlier states to pull what seems like a stunt. But they're doing it now because of when it's happening, like I said before. They don't really have another choice. Here's State Representative James Tallarico talking about it on MSNBC after getting some pushback because he's in Illinois. That was drawn by Democrats and gets an F grade from the Princeton University watchdog group, the Gerrymandering Project.
Well, usually state legislators adjust district boundaries at the beginning of a decade to account for population changes after a new census. Texas Republicans did that in 2021, 4 years ago. And they gerrymandered the map, just like both parties gerrymander in different states. And we didn't break quorum during that gerrymander. We're breaking quorum now because this is different. Trump has asked those same Texas Republicans to redraw the Texas maps to get him 5 more seats. They're doing it in the middle of the decade. This is like two teams coming out of the locker room at halftime of a football game, and the team that's ahead saying they want to change the rules in the second half to make sure they win. It's cheating, plain and simple. And if they're going to cheat, we're not going to play.
Okay. And he's right. It is the fact that it's happening now and in this way. In fact, just today, Trump said on CNBC he thought that the Republicans were entitled to these seats.
Gerrymandered. And we have an opportunity in Texas to pick up 5 seats. We have a really good governor, and we have good people in Texas. And I won Texas. I got the highest vote in the history of Texas, as you probably know. And we are entitled to 5 more seats. I don't know.
So first, Trump is right here about the vote total. He got more than 6.3 million votes in Texas, which is not just a record for Texas, but a single vote total record for any Republican candidate ever. But he's using that to say that the current map, which was redrawn in 2021 to favor him in 2024, doesn't go far enough. And to say that a political party is entitled to votes rather than having to win them is deeply undemocratic. And Democrats are saying they're going to fight back because in those states where Texas Democrats have fled, the governors there have promised to go through their own drastic gerrymandering processes if Texas does. California Governor Gavin Newsom has promised to sign a state law that would trigger new district maps, and here are the governors of New York and Illinois, Kathy Hochul and J.B. Pritzker, at separate press conferences with those Texas officials.
What Texas and Republican states are doing at the direction of Donald Trump, I say is nothing short of a legal insurrection against our capital. Legal meaning they're using the legal process. Does not mean it's legal, and it must be stopped. If Republicans are willing to rewrite these rules to give themselves an advantage, then they're leaving us no choice. We must do the same. There's a phrase, you have to fight fire with fire. That is a true statement of how we're feeling right now. As I've said, another overused but applicable phrase, all's fair in love and war.
fighting for democracy. There are no rules anymore, apparently. And so we're going to have to play by the set of rules that are being set out in front of us, which, frankly, none of us believes is the right way to operate. And what Congressman Green said is right. This is unconstitutional. This is about standing up for people's voting rights and standing up for black and brown people who are going to be iced out. That's right. By what Donald Trump and Greg Abbott are trying to do. So here in Illinois, we'll do everything that we can.
And fight fire with fire seems to be the phrase that they want to use here, because it's not just deep blue states like Illinois and California and New York, but the overall Democratic Party. Here's its new chief, Ken Martin.
Donald Trump, Greg Abbott, Ken Paxton, they said they wanted a showdown. And guess what? That's exactly what they're getting, a showdown. This is not the Democratic Party of your grandfather, right? Which would bring a pencil to a knife fight. We're bringing a knife to a knife fight. We're going to fight fire with fire. And we're going to do everything we can right now to stand up against this unconstitutional power grab by the Republicans. Make no mistake about it. As Leader Wu said, if you want to come and get them, come and take it. We're ready.
And so this is an unusually strong stance from Democrats here, but whether they actually followed through, if Republicans in Texas do, remains to be seen. And then there is one more thing before I end this episode, and that is that the U.S. Supreme Court could get involved. Because coming up this fall, the court has said it'll take up a case about whether or not it's legal to gerrymander a district in ways that protect votes. You see, in the past, particularly when Republicans have redrawn districts, they dilute the power of Democrats, and when they do that, it also dilutes the power of communities of color, because communities of color tend to vote Democratic more often. And they do that by either packing them all into one district or breaking them up so black and brown people just don't have a real voice in their own elections. And that is explicitly against the Voting Rights Act, which was passed in the 1960s. It's the federal law that protects the electoral rights of all Americans, but it was created to end racist voting and election laws, mainly in the South, but across the country. Well, the conservative majority of the current U.S. Supreme Court isn't a huge fan of the Voting Rights Act and is taking up a case from Louisiana this fall that asks whether it's okay to create majority-minority districts with the intent to protect black and brown votes instead of harming them. The people bringing the case argue that it's reverse racism, and the court seems ready to pare down the legal limit of protecting communities of color at the ballot box back by about 60 years. So even as this redistricting saga plays out in Texas, that case is also on its way, and these two things seem like they're headed for a collision course. But in the meantime, we have ourselves a Texas-sized standoff right here. And the worst part is, it's us, the voters, who are caught in the middle. We should want to live in states where we're given the opportunity to hear from reasonable candidates from both parties, where the odds of one party or another winning reflect who we are, so that we can send the right representatives for us to Washington, not based on how the current party in power sees itself in 10 years. And that goes not just for Texas or Louisiana, but also California, Illinois, or New York. We should want more fair elections because it produces the best people in office for us and, in theory, makes Congress work better for us. Okay, that is it for today's episode. Please make sure you're reviewing or rating the show on whatever podcast app you listen to it on. Like, subscribe, hit the bell for notifications, and leave a comment below if you're a watcher on YouTube. It really helps boost the show. Sign up for the Make It Make Sense Substack. It's just $5 a month to get access to all sorts of great extra content. And as always, share the show on social media. It's Mims News Pod. That's MIMS News Pod, all one word, on every platform. I am at Granthermes on X and Bluesky, and at Granthermes TV on everything else. Thank you so much for listening today. I'm Granthermes, and I'll talk to you on Thursday.